If you've been looking for ways to stay on top of your memory game, our next guest has some tips and tricks for you. Joining us now is Guinness World Record holder for greatest memory, Dave Farrow.
Man with me, David Farrow.
And I'm Dave Farrow.
And Dave Farrow, the memory win.
Switch to a new carrier case or
Sharpening your mind at any age is memory specialist Dave Farrow. Dave, how you doing, man?
Alpha Day Guam and beyond. This is Dr. Luan Nguyen. Welcome to the New Gen Peak Performance Podcast. So today I am so excited to have Dave Farrow on this podcast. This has been almost 20 years in the making. It's been a while since we've met, and I'll kind of give you the story of how we met. But just to introduce Dave, he is a World Guinness Record holder in memory, and he did this by memorizing like 59 decks of cards. That's like 3,068 cards in a row.
Absolutely.
Yep. And from there, many other feats, but more recently, he's been he has a PR company called Farrow Communications, and he's done a lot of PR for many writers and had a lot of people in huge publications and media. And in that process, he's also been on many shows like the Dr. Oz show, Steve Harvey show, Good Morning America, almost more than 1,000 appearances on TV and radio. So I'm humbled and blessed that you're here on Guam. This has been a long time. And and so and we just came back. We just finished. One of the big reasons for this visit here for Dave is we had the Mental Mastery Conference for Market Dominance in the Hyatt just on Tuesday, and we gave, I think, we had very positive feedback, and it was a really awesome show. But kind of, for the people that don't know, can you give me a little bit about your journey of how you became the world record, Guinness World Record holder in memory, and how you use the skill to kind of elevate yourself and make the next move in your career?
Sure. Well, half a day, everybody. So what I was talking about at the conference was really that there's a toolkit that a lot of us don't even realize we have access to. If you could think of, as often been said, I wish my brain had a manual that came with it, because sometimes it does what we don't want it to do, whether it's binging on the wrong food or developing bad habits or not remembering what we want to when we want to. And what I've dedicated most of my life to is figuring out the manual. I started with myself. I was diagnosed ADHD and dyslexic when I was a kid, and I was at the bottom of all my classes, and I was really suffering, and I became obsessed with memory techniques and memory training, and now that made a big improvement, and I was kind of hooked, and then I started inventing new memory techniques, and I'm one of the only people in this generation to invent new techniques, 5 new techniques, and actually a whole focus strategy for ADD that we proved in a double-blind neuroscience study at McGill University. So I've got a lot of things that I'm proud of in my career, but really the goal is that this worked for me, and I wanted to share it with other people to let them know that there really is a way to, when it comes to memory, you can trigger memory and memorize anything without repetition. Also, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to brain hacks in general, where you can affect your personality, you can change your focus, you can really change the course and quality of your life. But you have to do this on purpose. It doesn't happen automatically. If we go on autopilot, then things like social media and life takes over and kind of puts us down a bad path. So anybody who's listening to the sound of my voice right now, you're one of those intentionalists, I call them, or you're doing this on purpose and changing your life. So happy to have you.
Yeah. And I might not explained it very well. Like, in terms of getting the...
Oh, you did great.
The world record, like how did they assessed like?
Oh yeah,
what
yeah.
was
So
the
how do you,
testing
okay,
like? Yeah.
so I had to. So how do you judge something like this, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the feats for memory when you do memory training is numbers and symbols, and there's no better example of that than decks of playing cards. It's just the human brain has difficulty handling things that are abstract, so numbers, symbols as well, and they're all shuffled together. There's kind of a card playing aspect to it, so it's become a record that a lot of people would try to see how many cards could they memorize. Like when I was 16, I memorized 6 decks of cards for a local charity. And I was telling the principal today that we raised about $4,000 for the local charity, but that was because nobody thought I would remember all 312 cards. So they were pledging like 25 cents a card, and then had to come back and negotiate a little bit because they didn't think that they would owe that much.
Yeah.
But it's so there's a trick to it. There's a technique to it, if you will. I'm very well practiced at it, but there's also extra strategies to get to this level. But essentially, the best way to think of it is you can't wrap your head around like 3,068 playing cards, right? But you could wrap your head around the idea of remembering a movie, right? If I showed you a trilogy, like the original Star Wars trilogy, for example, masterpiece. If I quizzed you on that, you'd remember, one scene, then it led to the next, and led to the next. If it's a good movie, right?
Right.
So you're memorizing tons of information. Each one of those scenes has multiple objects in it and everything. If you really think about it, you're memorizing a lot of information without even trying. That's really how memory techniques feel. You use your imagination, you paint pictures in your mind's eye, and you can remember vast amounts of information without the effort that you think it's going to take, because you're using it the way your mind wants to learn, which is through your senses.
Yeah. And, I was wondering, because I met you when you're kind of on your get up and hustling and selling your memory courses and things like that, and going city to city, right?
That was fun.
And
just like let people know what the actual record is. It's 3,068 cards in exact order, 59 decks all shuffled together. I had to recall it all in a row, so without making I was allowed 0.5% wrong. So it's like something like 24 cards I could make a mistake in, but I only got one mistake out of the 3,068 cards, and that was done with in association with Discovery Channel. So it was all filmed constantly, and everything was double checked and everything to make sure it could conform to Guinness rules. And since then, it hasn't been broken.
Yeah.
Many people have tried.
Yeah. And from there, like with that almost limitless memory, and you also learn speed reading too, right? And you did a few publicity stunts with the speed reading. So like with that combination of speed reading and being able to memorize so much, like the world is possibility. Like you talked to me like you wanted to be a doctor. On point, like you could have probably just learned everything in a year, right?
I pick up skills the way some people pick up stamps. Yeah, and so I did go into PR and ran a PR firm. I did get into biotech. I ran a biotech company in 2006 and nanotech in that time. And then I also got into one of my passions of design engineering. I did some work for Johnson & Johnson and designing a medical device. So I got into that on the research side, which was actually where my passion was. And then I got into robotics as well, and now I'm designing a castle that I'm going to be building in the next year. So yeah, when you can remember so much and when you can learn things quickly, you have a mastery of information, then the world does become a bit your oyster. It is definitely goes to the person who can learn the fastest, especially in today's day and age with technology and how things change so quickly.
So with all those possibilities in your tip of your hands where you could learn, virtually almost anything, right? Like, why did you pick PR and marketing?
Well, PR was so I started selling my courses, and I wanted to get as many courses out there as possible, right? So PR became a great opportunity, free advertising, the way I saw it. But there was a real trick to it, and I figured out a way to pitch the media in a way that really worked. And I was starting to use memory techniques a little with psychology in some of my pitches. Yeah. And I was actually able to get on over 2,000 interviews. and things like the New York Times and the Today Show and things like that, and all the shows that you mentioned too. So when you're able to do that, then I was selling a bunch of product, and that felt good, making some money. So that definitely was down the right track. But then I had a whole bunch of other authors that were friends of mine who were asking me like, "Hey, how did you do this? Like, I've got something good going on, but I can't even get on the local ABC station and stuff." So I started coaching them. I hated coaching because it was terrible at it. Because it was like I would tell them what to do and they wouldn't do it the way I would do it. So I was just like, screw it, I'm just going to do it. I had some people who were interns actually who made employees and started Farrow Communications, and we started doing PR for all these people, and it was I never intended to run an agency. That was a struggle, until I figured it out. But it's very rewarding. And then doing PR for all these people, then combining the memory techniques with the marketing was a real winner. When people would ask me about how to brand their product and stuff like that, I found that really fascinating. So I've loved doing that this whole time. Yeah,
and some of the, I guess from the conference, one of the takeaways that I learned from you is, as kind of in the science world, I'm always looking at research and I'm always emphasizing facts and figures, right? And sometimes it's not just the numbers, and that's not going to move people. It's the emotional part. And you teaching about, you have to allow the client to really visualize the end goal or visualize themselves on why they need that product or why that should appeal to them. And also even talking in the past tense, like that was one of the top, takeaways. And just
so really, nobody visualizes themselves in a double-blind study. So if you mention a study, that's great, but have it with a story. So people remember the stories, and that doesn't mean that, like, because a lot of people shun anecdotes and think anecdotal evidence is not valid. But the way I like to do it is I'll tell a story about someone's experience, and then when you get the punchline of like, they did this and they got this result, and that's the fun part and it's exciting, then you say, and what's really great about that is, recent studies do show that this is an effect that people experience. So if you can phrase it like that, where you tell the story and then you put in the fact, then people will remember that story. They'll remember what it is about, because we as human beings, we are storytelling creatures, and that's true with the brain, true with psychology and memory, and it's something it is a kind of a memory hack. And the other thing also is talking about speaking in the past tense. If you're an author, or if you're a coach, or something like some self-help person or something, and you want to, or even if you have a product and you want to talk about something that it does, we call these claims, right? So I'm claiming that my product improves memory, right? So I spent years selling this memory product, going, hey, give me some money, trust me, it'll improve your memory. And that's basically the sales pitch, right? It's very difficult. So if I say it will improve your memory, there's some skepticism. But if I talk about somebody like you that it has gotten the result for, then it's much more credible, right? So that's speaking in the past tense about someone similar to you. So a lot of times people, in academia, they're taught not to speak in the past tense, because that can be the passive voice, and that's not considered proper. But it is something that your brain finds much more credible. Like if I'm talking to somebody who's going into med school, and I can talk about this great Dr. Lewan who took my courses, and he says that he wouldn't have been able to pass a standardized test without learning the memory techniques I teach, then they're like, if that's true, then I want to try these courses out. So that's the real thing in kind of that art of persuasion. We try, this goes into politics and everything. We try to overwhelm people with facts. I love facts. I'm one of those people who loves to learn new things, but you and I are the rarity, right? Most people, they respond to stories.
Okay. And so you utilized your memory techniques and just built out the skill to kind of pave your way for your career. But now you've kind of embraced a little bit, you realize that you got to incorporate some of the more health aspects to the brain and how to optimize the brain and mind. And
I hit my own limits, right? During COVID, I can learn anything, I can maximize my brain, but then we were all trapped for so long, and I was overwhelmed with stress.
Yeah.
I was overwhelmed in my relationship and financial challenges and everything else, and not being able to travel. A speaker who can't travel, it's a death nail for that part of the business. So during COVID, I realized there was so much more than just memory that I was dealing with, and I started coming up with brain hacks, just like I did with memory, but for all sorts of things, like trying to sleep better. And I had chronic pain, and I had a whole bunch of other different things to deal with. And I realized I had created this whole collection of different hacks, and I realized that there was much more to talk about, and people really need a manual for the brain. They need to know, they want to know how their memory works, but then beyond that, they want to know how their focus works, how their energy level works, how their motivation works, right? So I've compiled as comprehensive a list and stories in the form of stories, and put it in a book called Brain Hacker. But then I didn't want to stop there. I started brainhackers.com, which anybody can go to, brainhackers.com. And it has a bunch of articles from experts in all sorts of fields. And they're all short articles that you can read in less than 5 minutes. That'll give you some hack for that situation. So we've got people who are relationship experts that have all the relationship hacks, and motivational experts that are about goal setting and things like that. I think that's the future. I think being able to access quick bits of information to improve your life. So that's basically, it's an online magazine that I'm very proud of. And if you're an author who has hacks, has these places, then you can join the community. You can get a free profile. You can post your articles if they're credible and everything. We have a bit of oversight, but you can join Brain Hackers and become part of that. And there's actually opportunities to promote yourself and everything.
So do you think you can give the audience maybe one brain hack that you've kind of researched yourself and utilize, and then maybe one brain hack that's come from the outside source or some of the experts you've kind of reached out to?
Sure. Well, actually, one thing we didn't talk about much on the last conversation was focus. A lot of people want to get into flow state and they want to get focused. Me being ADHD, I'm very susceptible to that, right? And I've got a kid who's ADD, and how do I get them focused? So one of the things to understand about focus is that your brain, it has a terrible battery. That is, the brain chemistry itself is very susceptible to your own thoughts. So if you think really hard about something, let's say you're studying or something, you will get tired very quickly. And we won't get into the names of all the hormones, but that's where some of the hormones that keep you alert start being used up, and some of the hormones that make you tired, get produced. So what I discovered was that if you try to push through that, you try to compensate with stimulants and things like that, as most people discovered, it's not a very effective way to learn new things. So even with memory techniques, I hit a wall constantly. Now with my ADD, I could only focus for a couple of minutes at a time, even, right? So what I discovered was that focus in reality is actually more related to a fight or flight response, like a positive fight or flight response. So we know the negative fight or flight response, cortisol gets kicked into the body, and that interferes with our ability to remember. But there's a positive fight or flight response, which a lot of people now refer to as kind of flow or flow state. Yeah. And that is where you're alert and you're focused. You're temporarily smarter. Like your eyes can focus on things clearer and fast. Right. But you can only keep that up for, it's judged about 8 to 10 minutes before your brain chemistry kind of uses up all that good juice and you're gone. And a lot of people feel really tired afterwards, and it takes a long time to recover. Yeah. What I came up with was turning mental tasks into interval training, like a boxer. Where you study intensely, like really intensely, for a short period of time. I usually do about 5 to 8 minutes, typically. And then you give yourself a comparable break, usually half the size of the burst. So if 5 minutes, I'm going to take a break for 2.5 minutes, and I'll read something, or I'll even watch YouTube or something. Yeah. And then you go back, and then you take a break, and you go back and you take a break, and train your brain to switch between the relaxation response and the focus response. Yeah. And that is the single biggest factor that college students have come up to me and say that technique changed their life so much, because it trains you to handle those standardized tests, to handle those crisis situations without panicking, without being forgetful. And it's also like, you can do it even if you're really lazy. Like, you got to be really lazy to not work for 5 minutes. Like, if you won't work on your project for 5 minutes, you don't want to do it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I did Yeah, you taught me that focus technique, like the 5 minutes on, and I did use that in the studying aspect of things, and that was super helpful because it made things a lot more efficient. But
hours can go by and you're not even tired.
But I'm wondering,
it's crazy.
But I'm wondering if you do that a lot, though, right? You're kind of 5 minutes in and then kind of take a pause. Wouldn't that condition yourself out of, say, in my situation, if I have an 8-hour exam, right, and I have to have maximal focus for that hour, and then 5-minute break, and then an hour. I'm going at hour intervals instead of 5-minute intervals.
No, I understand. Yeah. No, and so what we do find in the feedback I've gotten from most students is that when they train their brain, so really what we're training is the switching system, so the ability to turn on that focus instantly and turn it off to relax.
Yeah.
So we found that the people who have been doing the focus bursts really religiously, they still perform well even with long hour tests. Your brain, you're naturally going to be taking breaks as you need, and you're kind of going to be pushing yourself. And if you're tired after that test, that's no big deal. You have the whole day off afterwards, right? So you can kind of push yourself past that goalpost of the best ideal brain chemistry. You can have some coffee and stuff to keep going as well, and you're fine. But it's training the brain to get into the focus state that is the biggest challenge for most students, because most students, it takes them hours to kind of get their brain going, as they say, and they're wasting so much time that they could be learning and studying.
Yeah, and I'm pretty guilty of this sometimes. Like, do you have any advice? Sometimes in the afternoon, I get that a little bit of the slump at the 3 p.m. site, and sometimes I use caffeine or like a Diet Coke, which is not great. But and overall, you shouldn't really be drinking much coffee after 12 because that stays in your system for 8 hours and that could disrupt your sleep. But any advice?
Well, there are some people, if you're really big on ADD like I am, then coffee can help you sleep sometimes. So it really depends on the person sometimes. So experiment with that. But what I do is usually biphasic sleep. I will always take a nap around that 3 o'clock hit.
For how long?
Well, the general consensus in sleep science is you can nap for about 20 minutes, and you'll find this if you start napping, you're really tired and you'll like doze off, and then you'll kind of be alert again, and you'll look at the clock and you're like, well, maybe it was like 25 minutes, but it took you 5 minutes to get into that state. So 20 minutes, if you go beyond 20 minutes, if you start going into a half an hour or more, then you should continue for the full sleep cycle or you'll feel terrible. Yeah. So it's either 20 minutes or 90 minutes, and that should be the time. But try to train yourself to do it without a clock, because there's this weird psychological thing. Everybody talks about it. I wish this was like studied more, but when you set your alarm, you can't stop thinking about the damn alarm, and that it keeps you awake, right? So I've trained myself to do it without an alarm. Okay. And there's one of the things you can do is actually auto-suggestion. So tell yourself, like, look at the clock, see what time it is, and say, I know what time it is. I know how long a minute is and how long an hour is and everything. So brain, wake me up in 20 minutes. I'm going to close my eyes now. I'm going to drift off peacefully into sleep and everything. And tell your brain to do what you want it to do. And that actually is that's a brain hack for getting deeper sleep. It works incredibly well.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to block off my schedule around 3 o'clock for my patients. I'll be in the lounge.
You do that. If you get a really good nap in there, you can keep going till 9 or 10 at night and not be tired at all. That's the thing. You feel really rejuvenated if you do it right.
Okay. I might have to experiment because I do around the 3 o'clock and I feel a little bit slumpish, but by the time it's 6, 7, 8, I don't think I could work. Like cognitively, exactly. I'm out. I'm fatigued.
So if you push yourself past that 3, you maybe go another 2 hours till 5 or 6.
Okay.
There's some Gen Alphas out there going 6, 7 right now. Right now, I can
hear. Yeah. Anything else you learned from other experts that you might have put in your book or?
Oh yeah. Brain hacks. One of the other things I learned from other experts that I really try to push is the theory of multiple intelligences. So many people think that their IQ is fixed. A lot of the IQ tests will tell you that, and to a certain extent, you can adjust your IQ. They say 20 to 40 points and everything. If you actually look on the charts, that's a huge difference. But I think that a lot of that IQ stuff although it has value, I think it's a little bit BS because everybody has a type of genius. And when you look into the idea of the belief that there's multiple intelligences, then what we currently call IQ is your ability to solve problems, usually logical problems. So that's your logical IQ, right? But then there's also emotional IQ, EQ, right? Your ability to connect with people and feel their emotions and stuff. There's musical intelligence, you know. There's a logistical intelligence, people who are very sequential and can handle large amounts of organizing and logistics, you know. There's all sorts of different ways to view intelligence, and really when you start to look at it that way, you realize that everybody has a gift, and our job in life, I think, is to find what our gift is and expand on it. And it's best summed up in the words of my favorite philosopher, Dolly Parton. Yeah, by far the best philosopher in history, Dolly Parton. I swear. No, you don't believe me? No, she said, "Find out who you are and do it on purpose." Yeah. Like, what other advice do you need? Like, that's better than 3 of Nietzsche's books, I swear.
So is there a way that you can test yourself to find out where your strengths are, or which personality, or I guess IQ you fall under?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's your own assessment, what you're good at. So, you know, there's some people who, so it's, in the philosophy, typically it's a mixture of what you're good at and what you're passionate about. Right? You're not going to be amazing at music unless you have a talent for it, but you also have a desire for it too, right? Unless, you know, you're like Mozart's parents who were like drilling him every single day and pushing him, and you know, there's a lot of parents that push their kids to do, you know, piano and everything, and they can get quite, you know, skilled at it. But really what you want to find is something that's a natural talent that comes out of you. So for me, one of my biggest talents is spatial awareness. That's why I was really good at the memory techniques. So I can visualize a project. You know, I'm the guy who can see a couch and see a doorway, and I'll tell you if it'll fit within millimeters, right? Without measuring. That's why I got into 3D design. I got into the maker space. I got into robotics, and now building a castle and stuff. So I'm using that intelligence in what I believe I bring to the table, and I'm just trying to push it as far as I can in this lifetime. There's other people out there who have other skill sets and intelligence, and I just want to get across to them that you could be a genius, just not in the way that people are measuring today.
Okay. Let's see. I want to get your perception. Then let me. Do you have a sense of, when you talk to someone, what their, I guess, which area their strength is? Or?
Yeah, you know, it's always what makes them light up, I think. Yeah.
So what do you think?
A lot of times.
What do you think about me then? What do you think my IQ?
Okay. Now you're putting me on the spot. This is good. Okay, so you're a very logical thinker, and you think in terms of like society has an ideal path. So I think you seek the optimal path for people. Like when you approach your patient's health, you are not just saying symptom response like most doctors. You think of their whole lifetime and what is how long can I make this person live optimally? Like, you're the optimizer. I feel like you would take any person or product or something and just refine it to its perfection. You're not the creator in the very beginning that invents the thing. That's more that's what I love doing, right? I love making the rough prototype and making it function, but you're the one who wants to perfect it and streamline it and optimize. So your intelligence would be, you know, any person or system that would be, you know, they're at the 70-80% level, and they want to get to the 100%, and then you would help them get there. And I think you're doing that with your patients. You're helping them get to that optimized level. You're relentless. You know, you're not only are you figuring out what the right health choices are for your patients, you're even thinking about how can I even motivate them to make these choices, and then when their motivation fails, how can I have a strategy to keep them, like, you're just every single step of the way, you want to make sure they take that optimal path to live as long. Whoever's lucky enough to have you as a doctor, they should listen to every word you say. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. A little self-discovery
would that make sense?
I think, like, now that you say it, yeah.
The way you approach everything is that optimizer.
Yeah. I just don't feel like I'm that eureka build it from the ground up necessarily.
I'm the person who looks at a pile of junk and wants to make a car. I look at that like, oh, I want to invent something. I want to do something nobody else has. And there's other people who look at that car and go, oh, I could adjust the pistons and make it fire just a little faster, and I could tweak this and get 4% more of this and that. Yeah.
And I think that's also why I gravitated to something like integrative med, where I'm not recreating acupuncture, but what are some protocols, or what are some things, the good aspects of maybe acupuncture that I could put with chiropractor or functional med, and see if we can get a better outcome with the synergy of different ways.
That's one of the reasons why you brought me here to talk to the students. I just talked to
the St. John's kids,
the high school here, and you know that they're doing very well, compared to national averages and everything. But that's not good enough, right? You want to say, how can we do better? How can we make Guam better? And that's
certainly
fantastic.
And some of it's also kind of, how do you call it, reliving, right? It's like I struggled in school and like, why am I putting the same hours as this kid and he's surpassing me? That's just so frustrating. And then it took me until when I was in my 20s to realize, wow, you can unlock this memory and your genius or your study capabilities. It's not something innately that you're born with. You can really train with it. So you just, out of that frustration, like, I want to bring that opportunity for our St. John's kids and my kids, right? So give them that competitive edge.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
So thank you for that.
I'd say like other brain hacks. I mean, there's we talked about the one for food. We put that on your podcast as well. I talk about this story where everyone says, "How do you stick to a diet?" One of the best ways to stick to a diet is a cold turkey is the best way to deal with addiction, by the way. So like there's tons of studies on this, and making people quit smoking, whatever. Anytime there was like, hey, have a little bit of cigarettes and a little bit of this and wean yourself off, that was just failure just about every time, right? But a cold turkey is the most effective form of like stop smoking, for example, and also for alcoholics that we know of, right? Until other studies come up. So you can apply that to food by just intermittent fasting. It has the best strategy, and you don't have to measure things, count calories, all that stuff. Once you start getting into something more complex, it's much more difficult to follow, right? But we have had people that are like, well, I have a food that I have a lot of difficulty resisting. Maybe I love pizza, or I always eat the whole bag of potato chips, and then I feel like crap, or I eat all this chocolate. So I had a way to ruin a food for you. And a lot of people don't want this.
All right, tell me more. Let's go.
They talk about how they want to stop eating, the ice cream or something. And I tell them, well, here's what you could do, and you'll never eat it again. And they're like, well, I don't know if I want to do that, right? So I had this thing where I would eat Wendy's Frosties. Just about every day on the way to work. Well, the PR firm was kind of new, and I was commuting a lot. And I'd cross this place every day, and I was stressed out, so it would make me feel better. And I didn't realize, at first, I was associating that to the stress release of winding down. I gained so much weight, and I'm like, dude, I'm the brain guy. I got to like think my way out of this. So what I did was a technique that I didn't come up with. It's old neuroassociative conditioning, NLP and stuff. And basically what you do is you think of eating, and sometimes actually eat the food that you're trying to ruin, but you want to trigger the disgust response in the brain. It's actually a part of the brain that governs. It's there so that we don't eat the dead or eat roadkill or something. Rotten meat or something like that. So you think like a steak that is beautifully cooked and everything smells a certain way, and then like food that's gone bad. It's very similar, but we have taken the differences and just cranked them up in our brain. That's why the smell is so much stronger, right? So we have that disgust to keep us from eating something that's gone bad, and that's a very deeply held instinct. So I would imagine I would eat these Frosties while I'm imagining they're full of bugs and full of spiders and whatever, and they're crawling inside my mouth as I'm eating it and everything. And after about a week of that, I couldn't eat one. I just couldn't. And I haven't had one since. Wow. It's got to be like 20 years now or something. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to ruin a food, do that. Okay. But then you gotta. I can still eat some ice cream, just never the Wendy's Frosty ever again.
And I think I unconsciously use that principle too somehow, like in my own life, and sometimes I even find out the most important thing to a person is their family or their kids. So the way I started looking at food is sometimes like if there's a deep fried chicken katsu with a lot of seed oils that are going to cause a lot of inflammation, or some food I shouldn't be necessarily eating too much of, I kind of imagine myself looking at my kids in their eyes and be like, I want to be there for them. This is gonna take away some of my life to spend with my kids down the road.
God, I'm hearing Sarah McLachlan in the background, in the arms of the angels.
Yeah, so
oh my God, that's
something that definitely
that pulling on the heartstrings. That's classical motivation. That's classical future tense motivation. If you want to motivate somebody, that's a brain hack. But if you want to motivate somebody to accomplish their goals, they want to visualize where they will be and what they will accomplish. So that's a very powerful one. Wow.
Yeah. So let's go pivot a little bit. You've been here about a week. We crammed in a lot of of activities in this week.
This guy put so much on my plate. I was I hadn't even opened up my laptop.
Yeah. So far, how's your experiences on Guam, and what did you like? What did you enjoy so far? What did you think of the island?
Oh, I want to be an islander now, man. I'm just I wish I could be here all the time. It's beautiful. Yeah. I love Guam. I do also see a lot of its challenges. I see the island mentality of we have limited space, so you think that you have limited resources, but now thanks to things like Starlink and stuff, we have access to the entire world.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that our conference and others like it will open up the mind of people from Guam to realize that they can impact things all around the world.
Yeah.
And we don't have to just rely on the base and on tourism. We can expand our thinking even more.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody, but those areas are areas of growth too. I was actually talking to somebody because the Castle building is a wedding venue, right? Because weddings are on the rise now and everything. So I was talking to somebody about that I think there's a lot of opportunity for Guam to become another destination wedding space, but it has to be marketed properly. You have to get some people with the real estate to really push it and just get some optimism going. There's nothing wrong with a few crazy ideas, getting out there. Just so everyone knows, I'm building a castle in New York. And it looks like a full castle, but it's to hold weddings and it's going to be medieval themed. And you think, well, that's crazy. Who's going to pay for that? Well, as it turns out, it's a lot easier to get people to invest in a castle. It's a lot easier to get a city excited about having a castle around than a rental property or some other real estate investment like an office building, right? So sometimes the crazy idea is the better idea. So I'm hoping people in Guam, I hope we can just get some crazy ideas going. Get creative. Think of something you can do with the island that no one else has thought of. Think of some, you got your friend who's doing the trails, the hiking tourism.
And the what do you call it? The bicycle trails. Yeah,
bicycle trails, but also like hiking trails and stuff like that. And that's a form of tourism, like sports tourism, I guess, or athletic tourism. And so expand your thinking and just don't think. The minute that you start thinking that you're limited, then I think it all starts in the mind. That's why this conference was all about like dominating your market, but it starts with the brain. I was saying on Patty's radio show this morning that it doesn't cost anything to get your head in the game. It doesn't cost anything to get you focused on set a goal, get creative, get some people you can mastermind with that also want to accomplish something and start sharing ideas back and forth. I remember I was listening to the founder of Netflix, and he had a commute to his job with his friend who became a business partner. And basically every day it was their job. They went back and forth. One would think of a business idea and the other one would think of everything wrong with it. And then they would swap roles, and that was their commuting role. And they came up with Netflix, and then the other guy thought of everything wrong with it. And they were like, oh yeah, that's right, it won't work. Right, but then high-speed internet started to become more normal, and then they were thinking, well, could we send a DVD through the mail, and would it survive? And then they did a little test and they sent it through the mail, and Netflix started by sending DVDs. It was like mail order at first, and then it survived. And he was like, oh, some of these ideas are going to work, right? So, but it only worked because he had that sounding board. He had that, I'm going to come up with an idea, you'll come up with the idea, hold your friends accountable, get creative, and find a solution, because it starts in the brain.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I'm thinking about what can be done in terms of just tourism alone, let's say, right? Because that's one of our biggest industries. Because the reality is,
It's dropped off
it's
since
dropped
COVID.
off since COVID,
And you
big
want to bring
time.
it back.
And I think about like what are the strategies, right? Is there a rebranding thing? Do we have to change the market? Is there a way to rebrand? But I guess leading.
I think
what
you
you're
need some
thinking-
excitement. You
Yeah.
need something that draws them, something exciting to get
So it
going.
has to be that crazy idea, right?
It really does, yeah.
'cause I
Well,
just-
human beings, like you understand the body, the term homeostasis, right? And
Yeah.
for those listening, that's the body desires to stay in the same state that it's in. That's why when you lose weight, you gain it back. That's why your body wants homeostasis. So psychology is the same way. We all have that homeostasis mindset where we keep doing the same thing every day, right?
Yeah.
So you need something powerful to pull you out of homeostasis. So if you've got people in Japan or Korea or something and there's a vacation spot that they go to, you need to have like, hey, there's this really cool thing happening on the island of Guam, not happening anywhere else that you've got to see.
Yeah.
And you know, if you build it, if you make it, they will come.
Yeah, because I worry. Because I mean, one of the struggles is the currency, right? Right now, fortunately for I guess us, the U.S. currency is doing better compared to Japan or Korea, and that is one of the deterrents where just eating here costs a lot, right?
Yeah.
So, and how do we compete with places like Vietnam and the Philippines and Thailand, which is so much cheaper? So.
Yeah.
So I guess that really made me think, okay, so we have to have that crazy idea. And yeah, one of the actually, I guess, attractions I thought about was having those, those Bigfoot cars that they had the monster truck shows.
Oh yeah. Things like that.
So have one of those, because we also have a scrap car issue. We have abandoned cars all over throughout the island. And like, we should just collect those, put them in a pile, and we just run them over and just
that would
jump
be a
over
lot of
that.
fun, even
I don't
if
know
it
what the
doesn't make
liability
money.
on that is, but that'd be super fun.
Even if like that'd be a lot of fun, even if it doesn't make money, I'm game. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have something that you can't lower the price point, then raise the value. So this could become the premium destination. I mean, Thailand has beaches, and this place has beaches, and every place has beaches. But if you get a hold of the traveler that wants more than a beach, that wants a health experience, like some of the stuff that you're doing is kind of like that Gwyneth Paltrow Goop type, retreat, yoga retreat type thing. If you could really show people that, yeah, coming to Guam, you're going to get a health experience that's going to be transformative, like a Tony Robbins level experience,
Right.
then people will pay anything for it. So yeah, I think definitely Guam has to embrace premium economics. It has to find a way to provide a bigger value and not be a race to the bottom to be the cheapest place to be in order to get that tourist dollar. So you want to get the people who are well off, who are. What about the keyboard warriors, the people who work on the internet a lot? They can travel anywhere, and the keyboard bloggers and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they Portugal was attracting them a little while ago.
And yeah, maybe like incorporate some of the, like what Puerto Rico and sometimes do, they make things, taxes a lot, better, things like that, right? And use of crypto and things like that is, is more accessible. Okay, so.
But I think like a health retreat, something that just everyone's looking for the thing that is unique. Everyone's looking. There's some beautiful beaches in this area of the world. There's no doubt, right? But they've been to all the beaches. So what is here that they won't get anywhere else? And if we can find that, and if we can give them that experience, then they'll fall all over themselves coming. I don't know what that is, but just asking the question, like, what can we have here that we can't have anywhere else? What can we offer? What can we do for their mental health or their well-being or their success or something?
Yeah, and pretty much the last question that just kind of really
does start in the
me,
mind. Yeah.
Was this podcast is also about relationships, and I'm always looking into how to improve my relationship with my kids and how do I raise them. And you have an interesting, unique path. You're homeschooling your kids or your kid, Lex, now, and like, how did you go about deciding to do that? And like, what are you hoping to accomplish with homeschooling your kid?
That was really out of necessity. He was really struggling. His ADD really gives him there's a number of traits for ADD. The one that he's highest in my opinion, is the resistance to doing outside work. So if he's interested in something, he can get very focused for it. But there's a thing with ADD, if you tell them to do something, they have a lot of resistance doing it. Now, people who don't have ADD, they don't understand. They think that kid is just being a bastard, right? They're just like resisting you. But it really is in the brain. Like, you can't get yourself to do something sometimes. So he was needing, 5, 6, 7, 10 responses, 6, 7, prompts from the teacher to just get started. And so he was coming home from school with no work done, and he had to do all of his schoolwork, and then I had to help him do all of his homework, right? So we were working for like 3 hours a night on all of this, and I was really pushing him. And it just seemed like I was the only one getting any education into him. And the school system, he would go there, and he just, because of the environment and so many kids and the distractions, he just didn't get his work done. And he was falling behind, and he was already quite a bit behind because of COVID. So I decided to pull him out, even though I certainly don't need one more thing to do. I was very stressed in doing it, but I was like, I got to figure out how to do this. Because it was taking every evening all the way until he went to sleep. And then he was also at school, and he was also working. He had no time to be a kid. So by switching over to homeschooling, I was able to like double his reading speed. We've raised his math level up. We actually raised it up 2 grade points. And now we're looking to hopefully skip 1 grade and get him back on track to where we wanted to have him at. All of his metrics, they were all like below expectations before, and now they're above expectations for the grade level and the age level. And also he's happy, and he's able to do things. So but I had to put in a lot of strategies for homeschooling because I didn't have a lot of time to do it. So we have like this chore chart and the things that you have to do each day. And I incorporated that into homeschooling, where it was, this is actually kind of the strategy going forward. Typically in school, they'll get you to do something like, let's say you learn long division, right? And they'll make you do long division like 100 times, right? And they're drills, and they're to reinforce the skill set. And what we find, especially with kids with ADD, is this ends up not having a long-term lasting effect. They are able to drill through it, and then a couple months later you ask them how to do it, they have no clue. And you're like, but you did it 100 times. Yeah. So instead of 100 times in 1 month or 1 week, what I'm doing is 1 day or a couple, per week. So I'm taking all of the math that we have to do for his 5, 6, and I'm just having a few, like, just to make sure that he still knows how to do it. And I work with him on the ones that he doesn't know how to do, but he has to do it perfectly every day. And just like 1 or 2 problems in each category every day. And it's actually less work, but the end result is a higher skill. So I can give him any problem in any of these areas, where it's fractions or like long division or something, and you can just do it because he doesn't forget how to do it. Yeah. And so the secret is, like, once you learn a skill, then to maintain it, just do the bare minimum that you can do every day just to maintain that skill. But try to avoid the teaching method where you like really intensely cram and then leave it alone for a semester and then try to get it back. That is just one of the biggest mistakes I think education is making today.
And I was really surprised with Lex. Like, first when I met him in the airport, he was a little bit withdrawn. Like, is this kid gonna speak? And then all of a sudden at the conference, he's like raising his hand, and he kept volunteering. And I was like, wow, he came alive. And then later, when I came into one of the when we were at Mesclo with the steering committee with all these adults, he was having a conversation with all the adults. I was like, wow, So
he's really social.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that if you're homeschooled, then you won't have
I find that
awkward things. But no, he's interacting with people on a very high level.
Yeah. Because that takes a lot of just guts to be in front of all those like 150 adults and just raise his hand and volunteer.
He's an extrovert. Yeah, just like me.
Jeez, like was that a personality thing, or do you think that was a little bit trained? Because my daughter's a little more withdrawn, like
I think that is more innate.
Yeah,
if you look at the Ocean test, Ocean, it's a personality test, the only personality test that I agree with, and it's let me get it all right. It's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion. There's something for A, and then N is not narcissism, but neuroticism, right? So it's being self-absorbed. So he's very, very high in openness and extroversion, and I do think that is something that is somewhat innate because I'm very high in that, right? So I think that finding your strengths and focusing on that is key. So he's probably going to be a public speaker someday, you know, if all things go well. Yeah.
And my last question was, you know, and I see a lot of the benefits of homeschooling, and I think sometimes being in a school system, it's very kind of structured, and sometimes that starts to dwindle down on I guess your creativity and really be able to expand because you're always being told what to do. And I think sometimes homeschooling has that ability to more expand out and be, you know, level up and be more creative and be more find solutions to for yourself, right?
Oh yeah.
But you know, unfortunately,
well, Charlie Kirk said the homeschoolers are the ones who are going to create the new world, right? And it's not that far because the homeschoolers as a group way outperform other education.
But do you have any advice for me in terms of, you know, at this moment in my life that is not a reality, right? Where we're not educators in that realm, and I got to work. You know, I have to run a company, and I don't necessarily have that time right now.
There are some ways that I can do it because I'm self-employed.
But is there a kind of almost a hybrid, or are there things I can incorporate after the school or in the weekends that kind of get the best of both worlds to open my kid up and, you know?
Well, I will say something that your kid might not like, but one of the biggest mistakes people make is that I think the education system has made is to have summers off. It's if you do a little bit of mental activity over the summer, the results throughout the school year are immense. Just about every kid. And it's because, like just what we were talking about, you're stopping any sort of education for 2 months, and then you're trying to get them back to the level they lose. Like they can lose as much as a grade point over the summer. So keeping a bare minimum over the summer can make a huge difference. And I've made a deal with Lex that like you know, the studying throughout the year, you get a little bit of flexibility because you're homeschooled. You get a little bit more time off and a little bit more, you know, freedom and everything. But we're going to do stuff all throughout the summer. You know, it's a little lighter course load, but you're going to do a little bit every day throughout the summer. And then you just, I mean, it's basically like COVID was for a lot of people. It was a summer that went too long. And then all these kids are just so far behind, and it's hard to get the brain moving once it's stopped. It's so much more difficult than it is to just keep it going a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, we covered a whole bunch of different stuff. I never even thought I'd get into this.
So any last words or anything, what's next for you as a closing remark?
Yeah. The time that we have is so precious. It goes by so quickly. A lot of times in a podcast like this, especially somebody who loves to like curve the edges and refine things and perfect things and everything, we can feel like we're never doing enough. But before you know it, we're all going to be old and gray and or grayer in my case, and time's going to pass us by. And take a moment to just appreciate what you have accomplished too. Take a moment to see that is. Gratitude is probably my favorite brain hack. It's the single biggest thing that you can do for your own personal self-help and your well-being and your motivation and success. It's just to stop every once in a while. People like you and I, we're always looking towards the forward. And if you take a moment and just realize how far you've come, then that could feel pretty good.
Oh, beautiful. And Thanksgiving is coming around the corner, so
give thanks.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.